freshly pressed. Today we have with us Kane. Welcome to the show, Kane.
Hey,
Appreciate you
thanks for
being
having me,
here.
mate. It's great to be here.
Amazing. In your own words, tell us a bit about yourself and how you got into comics. Uh, how did you how did comics grab your interest as a kid and then as a writer?
Well, I mean, I've always been into drawing. That was always my main passion. So as a kid, as soon as I could pick up a pencil, all I wanted to do was draw. From there, I kind of, got into cartoons and things like that as you do as a kid. But the first time I found out about like comics, like real comics, was when I was about 10 years old. And I was at a market, um, and they had lots of different stalls with different cool things that you could buy. And I was there with my parents, and I saw one of them was like a pop-up kind of comic store. And immediately saw the cover of Wolverine number 100, and that was I immediately bought it, and I've still got it. And that was kind of my introduction into the world of comics. And from there, I became a huge fan of like X-Men and Wolverine and all of Marvel, really, Spider-Man and things like that.
Yeah.
But I remember I would trace that cover over and over and over as a kid, trying to recreate it.
Hmm.
And that's how a lot of artists start. You get to copy other people's work and then build your own style. But as far as writing goes, I don't know. I guess I was always drawn to storytelling and movies and things like that. So I was influenced a lot by that as a kid. My mum was, huge into movies, and she introduced me to a lot of really cool movies when I was really young. Um, and I was probably watching, some movies that I shouldn't have been at my age. You know what I mean? Like I remember, I think I was like 11 years old when I first watched Pulp Fiction, and that kind of changed.
Wow.
I realized, well, this is what really good writing is, but it's also really extreme. So
Yeah.
I think that really kind of influenced me a lot. But from there, I eventually kind of graduated onto more adult comics, and
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
it's like Sin City was always a huge influence for me, especially in creating this. And yeah, that's kind of the stuff that I aspire to do, is to do storytelling like particularly Frank Miller and
Yeah.
Tarantino. I just like really violent, off the wall stuff, mixing genres,
Yeah.
and yeah, getting really in your face with crazy stuff.
That's crazy. 90s Frank Miller is still my jam. Like I still love what
Yeah,
he has done over those that whole period. Um Current Frank Miller, I don't know.
yeah.
Jury's still out on that. There's
He's
there's a
old,
lot of
man. He's really old. He's got medical issues and shit. So I get it. It's like
yeah.
he can't keep up the pace at that age. It's nice to know that
No.
he's still trying, but it's not the same as he was. But I still, his body of work over time, it's undisputed.
It's
It's
just
still great.
unbelievable.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
so good.
Yeah, and also like I think you mentioned X-Men is as your gateway to comics. Like
Yeah,
it's not even funny how much like 80s and 90s X-Men got how many people hooked onto comics in the first place. Like
I know. I mean, I think that
I,
animated series was a huge draw as well. Everyone was like, "What is this?" I remember
yeah,
watching that and going, "This is awesome." And when I was
yeah.
reading comics, I was like, "The comics are even better, dude!" Like, like and the artwork is just so good, man. Like,
Jim Lee, man. Jim Lee is
oh, he
like
changed
just
the game for like that sort of
totally.
so good when he like redrew all those characters and redesigned them. It was just awesome. Yeah.
I know exactly. Amazing. Tell us a bit about the campaign. Tell us about Underclass, your graphic novel, and published by a good mates at Wild North Comics. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, Yeah, as you said, it's published by Wild North Comics. So I hooked up with those guys probably about a year ago, and I submitted to a competition that they were running, and they were running two competitions, and one was an art competition, and one was a comic competition, and I won both
Okay.
of them. So I was like, oh, okay. someone likes my stuff then. And then they said, okay, we'll agree to publish your comic, and you've got so much great art as well. Why don't we make an art book too? I was like, okay, cool. And then as they were going through all my art, they realized that because my art is so hyper detailed line work, so why don't we make a coloring book too? I was like, okay, that's a great idea. Actually, I hadn't thought of that, but it really works. My work really lends itself to that when you take the color away from it.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah.
so this was the comic that I submitted to them, and it's basically it's set in a high school that teaches kids to be criminals. But
Right.
what it's really about is it's kind of it's four short stories split into five chapters
Hmm.
about these students that are basically forced to go there because they have no other option, and they're kind of
Hmm.
stuck in this school. They're not, they're not sponsored by criminals or anything like that, but they have to basically learn to survive in the school. So it's kind of like Sin City set in a high school. So yeah, it gets very interesting, gets very violent and bloody, and
Yeah.
if you're that sort of storytelling, you'll definitely like this. And yeah, we've got heaps of stuff on the campaign. We've got, like I said, there's three books. So not only do we have that book, we have the art book and the coloring book. You can get in a bundle. You can get them as add-ons.
Hmm.
But we've got heaps of other stuff as well. Skateboards,
Cool.
you know.
Oh, that's amazing. Let's go through that. Let's go through some of the rewards and reward tiers and add-ons and stuff, you know.
Yep.
Uh, oh, those Australian dollar prices look good. Usually all the Kickstarters are back in US dollars, so, you know.
Yeah, I know. I hate having to convert it and figure it out. I was just like, let's just make it easy. Look, it's Australian dollars, you know. And when you go to buy it, it will tell you how much it is in your region anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Awesome. Yeah. Do you want to tell us about some of the rewards?
Yeah. Okay. So
Hmm.
the first one is obviously it's a PDF pack. So we've called it Wizards of Oz because it's all Australian creators. So you get my book, and you get three other books by three different Australian creators. One of them is Killaroo. The
Oh
other
yeah.
one is Gods Among Men, which is really
Oh yeah.
well written. I read that one recently. I was blown away by it.
I
And
love
the
Gods
other
Among
one
Men.
is Fox and Hound. And
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
lucky enough to get those creators on board, and they were gracious enough to let me include these in my campaign. And I'll be doing the same for other people. So if anyone wants mine, hit me up.
Yeah.
So after that, we've got a physical copy. So we've got two covers. One is the main cover, which is a wraparound cover. So it's like all black and white, but it's like fully packed. And then there's little bits of color in there to focus on the main characters, which I think is pretty cool. And the second one is like a digitally painted cover, which I digitally painted as well. So I can do two different styles of artwork, but my favorite to do is hyper detailed line work. That's kind of my favorite thing. But I do enjoy digitally painting as well. It just takes longer, so I don't do it as much.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I think the cover looks pretty. They both look pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Um, what else have we got? Yeah, we got the Maximum Bundle, which has the three books that I mentioned. We've got Wild North Anthology Bundle, so all the anthologies that Wild North Comics kind of started with. So
Hmm.
they all have different stories from different creators in each issue. There's
Yeah.
seven of them, and
Yeah.
obviously you get my book with that as well. We've got a retailer bundle, 10 copies at a discounted price. So if you've got a store and you want to stock them in your store, that's good for you. We've already got one guy that pledged for that one. Got Maximum Art Collection. So that's three pieces of art on high quality, like uh, almost canvas paper, and
Yeah.
you can frame it and hang on your wall. So these are three pieces that I personally selected out of the art book. And they
Cool.
were kind of part of a series that I was doing a few years ago, which was all cyberpunk stuff. So they all kind of
Hmm.
go together, but you can get them as add-ons as well. So you can just buy one if you want.
Nice.
We've got the Wild North Creators Bundle, which is all the graphic novels that Wild North uh, producers,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool because they're all different styles, all different storytelling, all different genres. Some of them are for kids, some of them not so much, but a little bit of everything. So yeah,
Yeah.
if there'll definitely be something for everyone in there.
I've sold so many copies of Dead City Lullabies,
Oh yeah,
Australian Future Tales. Like they're definitely, and
Australia.
also like,
Yeah, is the
sorry.
one that's we sell the most of. I think like it just flies off the shelf, dude. It's like as soon as people see that cover, they're like, I want that. I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, yeah. I remember this the last con I tabled at, we had 0 point. Like I had all the issues of 0 point origins, uh, and there was this lady who said like she's obviously she was indigenous, and she wanted to see any comics with indigenous superheroes, and
Yeah,
she instantly picked all the issues of 0 point, because
yeah,
she just she just yeah, she wanted to see one of the representations in there, right? So
yeah.
uh, it's fantastic. I love that. Yeah.
Yeah, I've had similar experiences. Like even at the last convention I was at in Perth, there was like a group of Aboriginal people, and they were like, "Oh yeah, have you got anything?" I'm like, "Yeah, check this out." And they were like, "They were just buying everything." Yeah, it's like, yeah, trust me. Like, and it's created by an Indigenous guy. You know what I mean? Like, and he's one of the founders
I
of,
know.
representing.
Exactly, exactly. And I think it's also great that it sends out that message in the world, right? Like we are on international stage now with Kickstarter and everything else, right? So
Yeah,
um yeah, it's definitely good to represent at international stage as well.
yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah, it's really great.
Awesome. Oh,
Um,
I love the draw in yourself ones, and it's actually quite reasonable. One of the most reasonable ones I've seen lately.
yeah,
So
yeah. I mean, the one I was going by like what the past campaigns that Wild North have done before, and I think for Future Tales it was like 250. And I was like, does that seem reasonable? And then me and Tim were talking, and we were like, yeah, okay, maybe lower it to 200 because we've got more spots as well. There's 20 spots available because it's going to be
right.
two double page spreads, two at the front and two at the back. So there's room for heaps of people in there. And I think we've got like 7 people who have pledged for that already. But,
Oh wow.
yeah, I enjoy drawing. So I can fill those spaces pretty quickly, pretty easily. But yeah,
Nice. Yeah, that was about to be my next question. Like, how do you plan for like those panels and pages? You know.
well, I use a lot of references. I think references are key if you want to really draw something that's like in the real world. You want it to look like something that is there. Like if you don't know how to draw a car, take a picture of a car, or even better, make a 3D model of a car, and then you can, get it on the right angle. So of some backgrounds, I do a lot of like 3D. I create 3D stuff, and then from there I redraw it.
Mm,
But it's kind of a mixture of just kind of making stuff up out of my head and then like using references. But I like to take pictures of myself from different angles to get the right framing. You know what I mean?
mm,
And I'll
mm,
use that and then just change the features, or as long as I have the angle and the posture, then I can make it look like any character I want. Turn it into a girl or whatever it may be.
mm, mm.
So yeah, that's kind of the process. But you know, uh, as I'm doing it, obviously my whole goal is to fill up every part of the page with detail. So even when I think I'm done, a lot of the time I'll go back and I'll keep working into it. I'll see like
Yeah.
little gaps and I'll be like, oh yeah, I could put some cracks on that wall. I could put some dents in that car. Just make it a
Yeah.
little more
Yeah.
gritty, a little more real. Because in the real
Yeah.
world, nothing's really pristine and perfect. There's little flaws in everything, and
Exactly.
I try to convey that.
That's
Um,
fantastic.
yeah,
Make the world look lived in, as they say.
yeah, and especially this world because it's such a dark, gritty,
Mm,
violent world. It's almost like New York in the '70s. There was trash everywhere, and everything was broken and gross, and that's what I was trying to do there. Really, it's not. It wouldn't be a nice place to live, but you really need
yeah.
to feel that when you're reading it.
Yeah, yeah. Makes sense. And you have skateboards. Ooh.
Yeah, so I've just had a couple of those printed just as test runs, and took them to a convention last week for the first time, and a
Yeah.
few people were pretty interested. Yeah, and they wanted to buy them right there, and I was like, "These are display models. I can't sell them to you. I'm just showing them so you know you can buy them from the Kickstarter." Like, no, but I want it now. You know, it's like at conventions, people just want to buy
I
stuff
know.
there. You know what I mean? It's hard to push a Kickstarter at a convention. That's what I've learned. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I didn't sell them then, but I probably will at the next one because the Kickstarter will be over by then. But I got them back here, if you can see. Got them.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I can see that. Yeah.
And yeah, they look great. I was really surprised at the quality, and it's done on real quality Canadian maple, 7-ply wood, like Pro decks are
Mhm.
printed on, and it looks fantastic. Yeah, people seem to like it. So
Amazing.
maybe, hopefully in the future, maybe I can get those in skate shops or something. That'd be cool.
That'll be
Um,
very cool. Yeah.
yeah, and yeah, so the last one you can get an art commission by me for 500. Which again, a guy at the last convention went, "Will you do a commission for me?" I said, "Go to the Kickstarter." He goes, "No, I can't afford that right now. Can I pay half up front just directly to you?" Would have been nice to get that through the Kickstarter, but okay. So I'm working on one now for that guy, but just it will be high quality if anyone wants to get one through this campaign. I'm working on a cable commission for him now, and it's some of the best.
Oh, nice.
A lot of really, really detailed, you know, gritty background I've put in there, and yeah,
Yeah.
looks awesome.
Yeah, nice. Awesome. And add-ons are
So pretty much everything that was in those bundles, I've created as a separate add-on. So you can
yeah.
get all of the books as separate add-ons. If you just want to buy like my book and then one random book from the collection, you can do that. If you want to just get my book and an art book, you can get that. You can get a skateboard as an add-on. You can just get one print as an add-on. So yeah, dealer's choice. Pick and choose whatever you like.
Nice.
Huh.
Nice. And finally the extreme art.
Yeah, so this is the
Right.
art book. This is a little preview of what it looks like. That's the cover. We've already had these printed,
Hmm.
and it's a hardcover book, and it looks really, really cool. When I first
It
saw
looks
it,
very cool.
I was like, "Oh, this looks great!" It's fantastic. Um,
Yeah.
and
It's the art stunning by the way in this. Yeah.
Thanks, man. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of different styles of art in there as well. Like I used to experiment a lot with different styles, but the majority of it is that sort of thing, like hyper detailed art. But there are digital
Yeah.
paintings in there. There's some other kind of more brush strokey stuff that I played with. Um, but yeah, a lot of them started off as like t-shirt designs as well, and then I just kept working into the backgrounds. And was like, okay, this could be a print now. You know what I mean? So
Yeah. Yeah.
it worked out pretty well. Yeah.
Amazing.
And yeah, that's the coloring book. So, as I said, most of the stuff that's in maximum volume is in full
Yeah.
bleed. It just doesn't have any color in it, and that's only 20 bucks,
Right.
which I think is pretty cool because it'll take you years to color all that because that's how long it took me. If you can do it
Yeah.
faster than me, let me know, and maybe I'll hire you.
That's correct. That's correct. Amazing. No, I think, and the good thing is these books are all ready to go and they're all even printed and everything. I know
Yeah,
Link has
so
his printing machinery going, and it's all good. So
yeah, we've already got heaps of full bleed and maximum volume. We've been selling those in stores and conventions, um, but we've been selling these as well, which is a pre-launch edition of the
oh
graphic
yeah.
novel. So I've been signing and numbering these, but the final version that will be from the Kickstarter will have more pages in it, so it'll be a better version
Hmm,
essentially. So we'll
that's
do a
cool.
reprint and then we'll send them out to people. But yeah, we have already printed one batch. Essentially, it's not the final product, but it's close to it, so we know what we're doing and we know what it's going to look like. and it all came out great. Yeah.
Amazing. That's fantastic. Awesome. So, tell me, Kane, like how, I know, like I've spoken to a lot of like specialist writers and artists, and some people who have done both. How's your experience like writing and planning the story? Like, do you storyboard it? What's your process like? Like, do you
Yeah.
write characters? What's it like?
Yeah. And like as I said before, I was always an artist first. That was always my first passion. So writing kind of came later for me. I was always drawing characters and things like that. And then I was kind of thinking about, okay, well, what world do these characters live in? And, come up with little stories and stuff like that. But with this book,
Yeah.
I really didn't have any guidance. I was doing it all on my own. I was just kind of doing it the way I wanted to do it at the pace that I wanted to do it, and or was available to do it. So I started with the art. I start with a storyboard basically, and then once I have it all mapped out of what I want these characters to do and what situation they're going to be in, and, I have a beginning, a middle, and end. Then I'll go back and I'll write the dialogue.
Hmm.
So I think images, they tell 1,000 words really. If you can read a comic without the words,
Oh
you
yeah.
will understand what's going on. That's really the goal. But then if I can add really engaging dialogue after the fact, then that really
Yeah.
sucks you in even further. You know what I mean? So that's the way I like to
Yeah.
do it. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I've had some conversations with other creators as well, and some of them have like even writers for that matter, like when they initially wrote the page, they had a bunch of dialogue and stuff like that. And as they worked with the artists, they kind of realized like this page actually works much better without a dialogue, and they kind of start shaving that and
Mm.
adding more detail to to like the background, or like just the world
Yeah. Yeah.
around the characters. Yeah,
It's all a process, and as you're going through it, things can change, and different people have different ways of working and stuff. But I think, just seeing art, sometimes what you imagine in your head and then seeing it on a page is like it's different, but sometimes it's better. You know what I mean? You go, oh,
yeah,
I think I've got a better idea for this now. Let's change it to this, and that happens a lot. But that's good because it's a process. It's a creative process, and there's no wrong way to do it.
yeah, exactly, exactly. No, and I was reading this book called The Cartoonist Club with my daughter. So she loves comics as well,
Oh,
uh,
awesome.
and she got like a graphic novel called The Cartoonist Club recently. It is about like some kids in high school trying to start a comic book, like write a comic book together, and they start a
Oh,
cartoonist club. And one of the things that they like their librarian tells them is there are no rules with
yeah.
comics.
What you want? Yeah, yeah. See,
Yeah.
you never know if you don't try. Give it a go. That's what I
Yeah.
reckon.
Yeah, I love that. I also love that your art is both accessible, and still it looks very accessible, and it's still fairly complex. It's very hard to emulate that style, because I think you've kind of worked it into your own sort of style, So
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. As I said, like I played around with a lot of different art styles when I was younger, when I was kind of learning to be like, a real professional artist. Um, but yeah, Jeff Darrow is a huge inspiration artistically for me. So
hmm,
you can see his influence in my work. Um, you know, Once I found out about him when I was probably in like my early 20s, and
hmm,
I think I was at TAFE at that time studying graphic design and illustration. And then everything shifted for me. All of a sudden, like almost overnight, I was like, okay, I'm going to abandon the art style I'm using now. I'm going to focus all my energy on learning how to do this. And I
yeah,
did.
yeah,
It took me a while, but I got there. And now people at conventions come up to me and they even go, oh, this looks like Jeff Darrow's work. And I'm like, that's a huge compliment because you have no idea how long I spent trying to develop this art style. Now it's almost like
yeah.
second nature to me. So yeah,
That's amazing. That's
yeah,
so fantastic. No, it's always so good to know when people actually see uh, what you are trying to do and
Yeah,
understand that, that's
absolutely.
fantastic. Great feeling.
It's also like, you don't know what's possible until you see it. Like before I saw his work, I thought comics, the best comic artists were like, Jim Lee and things like that. And it's like, okay, they are great for what they do, but now all comic artists are pretty much the same. They all kind of do that. But then I saw
Yeah,
that, I was like, oh, you can go even further with it. You can push every panel to its
yeah,
limit. And I was like,
yeah,
that's like the highest level of comic storytelling to me artistically. And I was like, well, if that's the best, I want to be the best and I'm going to try. I
yeah.
have to try.
No, I kind of agree. I kind of agree. And I think nowadays, like, it's also like it's evolved so much, the art in comics itself. Like it's
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah,
It's way
how
more
much detail.
diverse than it used to be. Now there's so many different awesome styles and so many different ways to tell a story. People are coming
Yeah,
up with new stuff all the time. Whereas, in my experience before, it was mainly just American style comics and superheroes and things like that. But when you go and look in and dive into like European comics, Japanese manga, obviously, you can do it so many different ways, man. And
so many.
I love
Yeah.
that conventions and stuff, you can walk around and see so much different stuff. It's great. Yeah.
Yeah, and with indie, like people are not restricted to, like, say, their local artists and regions as well. So you can see a lot mix of a lot of different styles. So
Yeah.
I know so many creators who work with like South American artists, like people from like artists from Argentina, and like they have a
Yeah.
very distinct style as well. And I for my comic, I worked with an artist from Nigeria, and that guy was like fantastic. Like he
Really? Wow.
yeah, his style was all like watercolors. Like he was using like watercolor style brushes for like coloring all the pages, and
I love
had
that.
like, yeah, it was so different, and like it was not really like very neat and everything, but like it doesn't have to be, right?
No, of course,
Uh,
it works. Yeah, the storytelling sometimes lends itself to that sort of thing. I like that.
exactly.
Yeah.
And we were trying to we were literally trying to create hell, because the whole story was set in hell, and like it doesn't have to be neat. Hell is a scary place, so we had to
Yeah.
build a
It's gonna
scary
get messy
environment.
in hell. Yeah.
So yeah, it was fun. Yeah, but yeah, I like this. Like there's so much access to different art styles now. It's amazing that how much the craft has evolved, right? So
Yeah, it's great. As much as bad there is, for social media, there's still like for art, it's like you can endless resources and endless ability to see what other people are doing and how they're developing and how you can learn from them, and how they can learn from you. It's great. There's a real kind of community with that sort of thing.
yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Cool. Um, it's a bit of a segue from here. Um, I love to put people on the spot and ask them what are the top five pop culture things they like.
Okay, this is a tough one. Well, first it's got to be comics. And
Absolutely.
any type of comics really, but the ones I'm drawn to are more adult style. Um, Second, probably anime. I mean, I grew up
Yeah.
with anime. It's just always been a huge influence on me, and especially anime from the 80s and 90s. That was the
Hmm.
best era for me. I mean, like Cowboy Bebop and stuff like that, just really kind of
Yeah.
stylistic, hand drawn, like Akira, stuff like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Amazing. I grew up with that stuff too, and like the Fist of the North Star, and
yeah,
like all of that stuff. Like it just has a special place for
yeah,
my
yeah.
heart.
I love the martial arts ones too. Yeah, they're sick. Um,
Yeah.
Third's probably just like movies. Movies in general
Hmm.
have always been a huge influence for me. In terms of storytelling, um, and developing characters, drawing the viewer into something and immersing them into a world, and doing it in like 2 hours is,
Oh
not an
yeah.
easy thing to do. That's why there's so many bad films out there. But when they get it right, they're fantastic. Yeah. um, and what else? I've got two left. Hmm. Hmm. Well, I guess you could, if you could probably put manga as a separate thing. I guess.
Hmm. Why
Well,
not? We can do that.
I
There are no
mean,
rules here.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. There are some mangas out there that they haven't turned into anime because they can't, because they're a little bit too complex. I
Yeah.
found out about this one recently. Oh, I forget what it was called. It was like Rocker something Rock, Sunken Rock.
Okay.
Have you heard of that?
Some can. No.
Oh, dude, you got to see the art. It's every page
Okay.
is really complex and detailed. Like you couldn't turn it into an
Wow.
anime; it would cost too much. But it's still like almost in an anime style. But the way this
Yeah.
guy draws like muscle, it looks like real. It's crazy. Like
Wow.
he shades the muscle. Like it doesn't, not the way that typical manga is done. It's not just like line work. It's really detailed stuff, and it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it's about like a yakuza guy, I think, and he's like rising through the ranks to become the boss. Like so it
Right.
gets violent, but yeah, it's really awesome. You should check it out.
Yeah. 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 No,
Um,
that's crazy.
and what else?
Funny thing, like I think you said that just this morning in one of the Discord groups, we were having this discussion around like someone asked a question, what is like written to be adapted? And
Mm,
and a lot of people were, especially like manga artists and writers were like, we don't want to think about this being converted into an anime while writing and drawing, because then it will just box us into a certain, like not box us, but like just restrict
yeah,
significantly what you want to do.
of
And
course.
then like, yeah, and doesn't utilize the medium of comics effectively,
No, because comics, that's what's great about comics. You can do really wild, off the wall stuff, and you're not thinking about, oh, how they're going to do this in a movie. You're just like, I'm just going to do what I want to do. They can figure that out
yeah,
later if someone wants to adapt it or attempt to adapt it. But that's not the goal. Let's just create the best story we can and put it on paper. You know what I
yeah,
mean? I think
yeah, yeah,
that's really the way to do it. Yeah.
exactly.
So I guess the last thing, the fifth thing would be, hmm, I mean, it's kind of a toss up. I don't know if skateboarding counts, but for me, skate culture, I'm a bit of a geek. Yeah.
Why not?
I just love like the old, like 80s and 90s skaters, man, and even the 70s skaters, just all the culture and stuff that went back then, and how
Yeah,
these is developed into their styles, and it's almost like being an artist. Some of them
yeah,
were really
yeah,
technical skaters, and some of them were really like just flowy and just had a style that nobody else could recreate. And
yeah,
that's why I'm so like, I put a lot of skate culture in my all my artwork, and even in this book there's a whole story about skateboarding.
yeah, yeah.
And yeah, that's always been a huge thing for me. Yeah.
That's amazing. Yeah, yeah. I only know Tony Hawk, but
Tony Hawk is good. He's like the ambassador, for
yeah, yeah,
he's great. He gets the word out, and now there's so many great young skaters that are like Olympic champions because of Tony Hawk,
yeah,
Australian
yeah,
ones. We cleaned up at the Olympics last time. But for me, it was always guys like Christian Hosoi and Tony Alva, and these were guys that kind of in like the 70s and the 80s, everyone knew who they were. You know what I mean? They were the
mm,
godfathers. They kind of reinvented the sport. They invented tricks, that
yeah,
didn't exist before. And then
yeah.
Tony Hawk came along and kind of perfected them. But
Nice.
I love those guys that were just like making stuff up on the fly. It was so cool.
Yeah, yeah. That's fantastic. No, I love that. Awesome. That's thanks for that. That was really good.
Yeah, no
You
worries,
did
man.
really well there. Awesome. We're coming close to time, but before we go, I would love for you to, take the stage, take 5 minutes, give an elevator pitch of the whole book. Why should people back it? All that spiel.
Yeah.
Yeah, stage is yours.
Well, essentially, this, it's not your typical book. It's really something different. I've really tried to do something completely different here. And my goal is always to kind of shock people when creating stories like these. And this is just the first in a series. So there's going to be three graphic novels that I have planned right now. Originally, I was going to do like five, but I've kind of narrowed it down a little bit. And I'm already working on the second one. But if you like violent storytelling, if you like Sin City, if you like Jeff Darrow's art style, if you like really, gritty, dark crime stories, you'll love this. So, this is what I tell people, and it usually hooks people straight away. Is it's essentially Sin City set in a high school. That was the first idea I had when creating it, and then I was like, okay,
Yeah.
well, why would a high school be so violent? Because Sin City is a very violent place. And then I just, came up with the idea. I was like, well, what if the school teaches them to be violent? And then it was like, okay, it's a school that teaches kids to be criminals. And that kind of lends itself to a really violent world. So right there, you can see what it's about and what it's going to be like. But yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
if you like all those things, you'll love this book. And we've only got just over 2 days to go on the Kickstarter. So if you want to back it, I would say do it now because it's going to be closed soon. But there's lots of
Awesome.
goodies in there, as we talked about. And I think there's something for everyone. So check it out.
Amazing. Thanks for that. Thanks for coming on the show, Kane, and really appreciate it.
Yeah,
All the
for having me
best
on,
for
man.
no worries. All the best for the rest of the campaign, and yeah, have a good one.
Yeah, you too, man. Thanks for having me, dude. It's great.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, and thank you everyone for tuning in. Until next time, stay gold.